Hey, everybody, it's Eric J. Olson here. We are recording a live episode of the Journey to $100 Million podcast today. Sorry, we are almost 10 minutes late. I had technical difficulties and I had to reboot my computer. Stupid computer. Always happens to me. Well, today I have another EO member on with me, Wendy Pease from the Boston chapter. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Boston chapter, 1 year member.
A 1 year.
Joined last March during the shutdown.
Is that right? Well, that's
Yes.
cool. So we, for everyone's benefit, EO is the Entrepreneurs Organization. It's a group of business owners who own businesses or founded businesses that are $1 million or more in revenue. And we have a Slack, what do they call it? Workspace team or
Channel.
Group? Yeah.
Channel. Yeah.
For EO
For
members.
Workspace. Yeah.
And I'm surprised that you're only a year into, because I see you post and interact a lot. And so, usually like for me, my first year, I was kind of timid, I didn't know what was going on. And I kind of kept to myself, but I think it's really good that you got really involved and you got to know a lot of people very, very quickly.
Well, that's the interesting thing is I know the global people, but I don't know my chapter people. I've probably met 4 people in person, and I've never had a live forum, which is your small group meeting. And the only chapter-wide event that I've ever been to was when I visited as a guest the December before. So I'm used to working with people from around the globe. So getting on the Slack channels or the workspaces or whatever they called, that's easier to me, and working virtual because that's been my life for 17 years.
Really? Wow. That's interesting. Yeah. A lot of people are like, I can't wait for these in-person meetings because this Zoom fatigue is the real thing. It's really setting in.
Yeah, but what I love about it is I'm on so many Zooms and meetings with globalists, people from around the world, people who are doing global business. So, there's no way I'd be able to connect with the number of people I am from around the world if I had to travel to do it. So
totally agree.
I'm enjoying some of it.
Well, cool. That's awesome. All right. Well, yeah. Wendy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Well, for 17 years, I've been the owner of Rapport International, and we connect people across languages and cultures by providing high quality language translation, which is written, and interpretation, which is spoken services. So we do everything from websites and brochures and Zoom interpreters, live interpreters, telephone interpreting. So anything that needs to go from one language to another, except teaching. We don't teach any languages.
Okay, but you'll interpret any language, or
over 200. There's about 6,000 languages in the world, and so we limit it to 200. But in practicality, you're probably seeing a couple dozen most frequently come up.
That's still a lot. So wow, how do you do that? Do you have full-time employees? You have a lot of people that are available for freelancing, and I'm sure it requires a lot of organization, a database of people, and how do you pull that off?
Well, since we do 200 languages, and the linguist who's assigned to a project has to be either a translator or an interpreter, because even though they're fully bilingual, they have a different skill set. One is like a writer and likes to read dictionaries, and the other one's the type of person that likes to go out and be with people and communicate. So we have to have lots of resources, and then it depends on what the specialty is. So even though somebody may be bilingual English Spanish, we'll look for, do they have marketing expertise? Do they have chemical engineering expertise, for some of the patent work that we do? So one of our specialties is marketing, because that's its own breed of their own. You really have to capture the message and make it culturally appropriate. So we have hundreds of linguists all over the world that we pull in for the right project. And then we do what's called linguistic matchmaking. And that's making sure the same person stays working with the client so they get that consistency of voice that's so important in marketing.
Cool. So if someone had a website, let's say it's an English website, and they wanted to expand to Mexico,
Mhm.
I guess they would reach out to you and get a translation of basically every web page.
Well, that's another interesting
I mean,
question
it sounds
because
simple enough.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. But okay, so it sounds simple enough. They come to us, they say, quote the website. We give them the quote. They've been, doing all their marketing with you, and they've got blogs and they've got press releases and they have tons of content. So they get the price back and they get sticker shock and they go, how are we going to do this? So that's why, I wrote a book that just came out last week. It's 1 week old, but it talks about everything, that it's not just translation. It's starting with your strategy. What are you trying to accomplish? And then you can look at what you actually need to translate, because going into another country, you don't have to start with your whole website. You may start with a landing page, or you may start with a microsite, or if you don't have a real robust website, you may choose to do the whole thing. We've got companies that are going international, but they only offer a subset of their products or services international, so they only do those. So those are all the types of questions that make it a little bit more difficult, that we help talk people through, so they understand how they can go about thinking about it, make a plan for expansion, and then work within the budget that they have for it.
Nice. So speaking of the book,
Yeah.
I am going to bring it up right
Oh, look
now.
at
Check
you.
it
You're
out.
so fancy.
Yeah, there we go.
That's
The
so
language of
cool.
global marketing on
Yeah.
Amazon.com. Good for you.
Oh, oh, and we have a new rating on there. I'll have to go see I mean,
Wow.
I'm so excited to read
Look
all
at
the
you.
ratings that have come in. Yeah.
53. That's awesome. Good
Yeah.
for you. 1999. That's awesome. So tell me like, why the book? How long have you been thinking about it? And kind of just the process that you went through. How long did it take you and whatnot?
Sure. Well, the why, I think, is so important, because there are tons of companies in the United States, and less than 1% of them export. And 98% of those are small and mid-sized businesses. And those businesses that do export have higher profits, higher revenues, they're more stable, they pay higher wages, their IP has higher valuations, they protect their domestic market better. So there's all sorts of reasons to export. Plus, there's free resources from the federal and state government. So they offer grants to people to help them go international, and they offer free advising and introductions to help people when they want to go international. And the reason they do this is because our balance of trade is so far off. We import way more than we export. So in looking at companies, I'm like, why aren't they exporting? And why aren't their creative agencies, their ad agencies, or their web developers even talking to these companies about exporting, because it's such a benefit for them? So I wrote the book as giving very practical advice of how you'd go about thinking to do that, to just spread the word. So the book, I've always had the makings of a book in me, but once I sat down and I said, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to help people do, it took me about a year to write. And for business owners or marketing people, the process that I liked was, you write a blog, then a blog becomes a few blogs become a white paper, a few white papers become an ebook, a few ebooks become some chapters in the book. So with the book table of contents, I wrote down what I wanted it to be, and then we wrote blogs about those topics. Then I pulled them together and edited them so they flowed together. So it took me about a year. I started the November before. By this past November, it was done. I was aiming to do a chapter every week or two. Writing the book was the easy part. Actually getting it into production and then figuring out how to market it, I've heard this from authors before, is the hard part. So anybody who buys a book and leaves a testimonial or review, I am so eternally grateful for, because it's hard to figure out how to do that.
So I also wrote a book, Journey to
Yes.
$100 million, also
Yes.
on Amazon. And it's really interesting. Your experience with writing your book is almost identical to mine. I thought about it for a long time. I kind of had an outline. Instead of writing blog posts, I have a podcast. And so I started to podcast some
Ah,
of these old stories and just kind of flesh them out and re-remember them.
yeah,
So if you go back, a year or more on our podcast journey to $100 million, you'll hear a lot of the stories that are in here. And that was the first time that I kind of retold them from a long time ago and figured out why they were pertinent to business. And then I started writing in December of 2019, and I wrote
yeah.
it in a month. And that was the easy part, right? Because then I was over it, and I was like, I'll edit it later. In about a week, I'll come back to it. That was 3 months, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, well, I guess now I can edit it. And then I
Right.
hired an editor, and I had to hire someone to create the actual, cover, and it was a lot longer. That tail end of the process was
Yeah.
much harder than I anticipated. It's a lot of work, so congratulations.
It is a lot of work, and people say you get really tired of looking at it by the end,
I do.
and I can understand, but it is a huge feeling of accomplishment when you get to launch day. And we had a little, webinar party, and so it was a lot of fun. And then I love the feedback. I talked to Jane Matson, who wrote a book. It's called You, Me, You. It's about networking today, and she said she read it, and global marketing isn't really something that she does because she's really consulting with people on networking and job stuff. And she said what she loved about this was that it's more than about global marketing. It's also about becoming a global citizen and making you aware of everything that's going on. So I was so thrilled to hear that. So what's been one of your favorite testimonials?
Oh wow, you're putting me on the spot. I don't know. I don't know, and it's because okay. I have only four reviews. So if you're talking about
I'm going
reviews,
to do
right?
one for you. I'm going to get off and order the book. So I
All
haven't
right,
yet. So
then
I
I'll
will.
reciprocate. All right, yeah, we'll take care of each other. So I run a digital marketing agency, and I did a terrible job, and I mean terrible, of promoting this. And I knew that was going to be the big thing, but when it finally was ready to press the publish button,
Yeah.
I got slammed here at work, and so I was like, oh, I'll get to that in a week, and a week's been like 3 months now, and I barely promoted it. So, but so I got 4 reviews. One of them is a person I don't know, so that's kind of cool,
That's your favorite, huh?
yeah, I touched someone enough where they wrote a review, and I don't know who the person is. So that's cool.
Yeah, yes, that is cool. Okay, I'll go in and read them. Yeah, no, what we're struggling with now too is running an agency. It's like you, we run a business, and then the book was supplementary to that. So marketing the book and marketing the business, we're starting to feel a little bit of conflict there. Yet the business is supposed to help get visibility for the business. So it's interesting because you've got to have two marketing plans, and then how do you integrate them? So that's one thing that we're working on right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. But I like what you've done with the concept of the book. It's a perfect dovetail into what you do for a living, right? Whereas
Yeah.
for me, this is the story of creating the agency, but we don't at my agency
Uh,
we don't do this, right? With yours, you're actually writing about the benefits of the offering that you have, which makes a lot of sense. And there's probably hopefully a natural continuum from reading the book to, hey, let's go hire maybe Rapport International to do this for us. That makes a lot of sense.
right, right. Because I kept hearing the same questions, and I'm like, and people feel almost a little embarrassed. Or I don't know what they're feeling, but they come to me and they say, I've never done this before, so I don't even know where to start. And so that's why I wanted to give them something so they don't feel like they're going into like right now. I'd like a book on how do you, when you've written a book that can help potential clients or your current clients, how do you build that into marketing your business so you don't feel like, they overlap, but how do they overlap? I'd love a book on that. And if anybody on marketing knows how to do that.
There is a book. It's called it's like the business book of business or something like that. And
Oh, okay. Well,
so
I got this book, Free PR
there you go.
by Cameron Harold and Adrian Salamonovic. So this has been good so far. looking at that.
That was pretty brave of you. I would not have attempted that last name.
Well, in my business, we're all about attempting things. Give me the words that are lots of fun.
That's funny. Well, so let's talk about the concept of going international a little bit more.
Yeah,
So, and hey, I'll be selfish here since I'm
yeah.
asking the questions. Digital marketing agency. I have heard from other digital marketing agency owners that going to like other countries can be very lucrative because and they found that these other countries are just not quite as advanced. Second world, third world are not quite as well, by definition, I guess, are not as advanced as the American market. So where we know, like, say, Google and Facebook inside and out, and a lot of social media platforms that we consider to be like, just they've been around forever, they're kind of still emerging in some of these other countries. And so it's almost like you go from being, expert level in the United States to like, like godlike in these other countries. Like, you really have a huge advantage. Is that what you found with some of your US based companies that have exported their offering to other countries, that they've really
No,
gotten
it's
much better?
well, yes, certainly found that if your company can go international and break into that, you're going to do a lot better for all the reasons that I said there. When the US market is tanking and people are pulling back, you've got other markets from around the world that are going to be doing better. You're expanding your reach. So, those are all the things, but it's not because we're more expert on Google and Facebook and stuff like that. It's because Americans are pompous. We can talk about ourselves and do self-promotion, whereas people in other countries are much more hesitant about doing that.
Really?
And so, so there's something cultural, I think, about how we market here and how we can go out and bring people to us and say, you should use my business. Other places in the world, and I'm generalizing, but other places are much more based around relationships. And so it's going in and how do you develop those relationships? And here in the US, for example, we'll go into a meeting and we'll start talking business immediately, and then start talking the goals and document everything, right? That's standard operating procedure. In other countries, you wouldn't talk business until on my podcast, The Global Marketing Show, it's an American who's doing business over in, I think it was Vietnam or South Korea. Oh my gosh, I should remember. I'll have to look it up and I'll let you know. But he said you have to go over there and get drunk with the people before they'll actually do business with you. Other people, like in Mexico, they want to hear about your family. And so there's a lot of relationship building that goes into it, but you solidify more long-term business opportunities by spending that time front. And then they'll pull you into the network and help grow your business that way. So, maybe we're better at Google and Facebook. I don't think that's what it is. I think we're just better at how we talk about ourselves to pull people towards us, and it's more accepted culture. Now, with that said, we're a HubSpot partner. We don't do the creative work, but we partner with a lot of creative agencies. And HubSpot's gone through massive international expansion, and there's a real interest in creative agencies and companies hiring the creative agencies, because some of the tactics and knowledge that you learn from American marketing can be easily applied no matter where you are in the world. It's all about thinking about your buyer's journey and how you're going to connect with them. And we just happen to do it across other languages.
That's interesting. So so I guess something like what we're doing right now, where you and I are going live on social media, and like it's we're promoting something, right? Either ourselves or our book, or we're sharing information. Would this be something that would be not common in other countries, like you mentioned, like Mexico and I forget, was it Vietnam, but like, is it, so would this stand out as like kind of an extreme marketing tactic, what we're doing right now?
Well, you're going to have interviews where somebody's asked about what they do, so how it comes across might be slightly different. But rather than me recording a book and saying me, I, come to us, and this is the benefits of working with us. It would be talking about the team who does it, and why other people might, and the relationships and building other people up. And so it's much more us oriented rather than me or I.
So would what we're doing like right now then,
Yeah.
would this be seen as like, would this get attention, or would it be seen as a negative?
You know what? There's so many cultures, so many languages. I'd have to drill it down and think about how it would be done across. But obviously, there's TV interviews with people all over the world. So it could be. And I have not looked at how many live shows on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn there are right now. But I can tell you on Clubhouse, it took the world by storm. I mean, when I first went in, I was getting into rooms with German speakers and Chinese speakers. Now their algorithm has gotten better at identifying what's your primary language. So I don't find those rooms as much. But, I'll pop, if I can find Spanish speaking ones, I'll pop into those and listen for a while. So obviously, social media and all this is going. You can go on TikTok and you can see, influencers from all over the world go on there. So, and that's the other thing about right now is we're seeing how globally interconnected we are through the passing of a virus or through, all these Zoom meetings and virtual things that are going on.
Yeah. So you've been in business for a little while, certainly. And
well, I've owned the company for 17 years, but the company's been around for 34 years. So yes, we've been in business for a while.
Congratulations. That's a good amount of time, and that's not an easy thing to do. So really, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
One of the things that we talk about a lot on this podcast are, usually it's my co-founder and I doing solo interviews, but we always like to ask other entrepreneurs for their opinion on things and to learn from them. And a lot of the things that we talk about, frankly, are the mistakes that we make. And there's like an endless supply of material there. There's, for us, at least, there's always, mistakes, lessons learned, optimizations, years and years into this business. And we're still tweaking almost on a daily basis. Do any of those kinds of mistakes, lessons learned, tweakings, kind of pop to mind for you as far as like some of the big things that have happened for you in your business in the last 17 years?
I'm going to pick one that's kind of funny because it's still a mistake of ours. Is we talk to people all the time about going global and having translation on and reaching out to people all over the world and being international. We have a little bit of translation on our website, and I wrote the book. It's geared mostly towards Americans doing international work. And I keep thinking, this is crazy. Why aren't I focusing on other places and globalizing my company more? So that's a mistake that I'm making, but that's in the plans to increase upon. I think one of my next books will be how to enter the United States. Ooh. Because there's a ton of good stuff on that, and companies are smart. They know that they have to go global and that this is a big market. I just started with Americans instead of, I say Americans, but I mean people from the US should, rather than poo-poo and be afraid of China, focus on going to China.
That's really interesting. So, okay. So you wrote the book from a perspective of American exporting.
Yes.
But there's clearly a massive market for importing into the United States.
Yes.
So let's see. If you wrote that in English, you would probably need someone to translate it into other languages. Do you know someone?
I know somebody really good. And they could do it in 200 different languages.
Wow.
And the message would be accurate. It's not going to be a Google Translate and really mess you up.
Now that is a big project. That may take more than a year.
Not with our humans doing it. We could do this much easier.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would be an amazing project. That, I mean, it's like, well, if you do all 200 languages, like 200 projects, you know? Wow.
Yeah, or for us, it's one project because we bring it in and we assign it to 200 different people, and then we monitor them along the way. We have reviews and give it back to you, and it's all high quality and culturally appropriate.
That's awesome.
Some of the examples may have to change, but yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
so I heard that I may be getting inquiries from places around the world to translate it. So fingers crossed.
Good for you. That is awesome. All right. So reminder, everybody, the book is The Language of Global Marketing by Wendy Pease. It is on Amazon. You can see it right here. That's a really nice cover. I like that a lot.
Thank you. I am so happy with it.
Yeah, good job. If someone wants to reach out to you, they can clearly buy the book. But if they wanted to reach out to you directly and ask a question or something, what is a good way for them to reach you?
Yeah, you can go to my Linktree website. I don't know if you've used Linktree yet. It's fabulous. You can put all your links on there. So if you want a couple free chapters, you can go on there. If you want to order the book, you can just click on that. We do a ton of posts about funny translation and cultural issues on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube. So you can follow me on any, and Instagram. So whichever your favorite platform is. So, and definitely reach out to me if you're considering going global and you want any free advice on how to start doing it.
Very cool. And then I'm sure there's a link to your podcast there as well. Is that a good assumption?
Yes. Yeah, I had to think it through, but yes, there is a podcast link there.
Awesome.
And I've had some fascinating guests on there, and they're all talking about mistakes they made or funny cultural things they've come in. We talk about Google Translate. So if you have any interest in global cultures or travel, it's I love the guests and the information they're sharing.
Very nice. And can you remind everybody the name of the podcast?
It's called The Global Marketing Show. So if you just search for that, The Global Marketing Show, it comes up and you can get to all of them. So I've been enjoying your podcast. I love the quick 5-minute, 4-minute, 3-minute learnings.
In and out.
Yeah. No, they're really good.
Well, thank you, Wendy. So like if anyone who's watching wants to find out a bunch of mistakes that people make, you can check out Wendy's podcast, or you can check out our podcast. It's called Journey to $100 Million. So thanks, Wendy. Very nice meeting you. Very nice talking to you. And hopefully I'll bump into you at one of these EO events that are going to be in person, hopefully soon.
It's going to be so weird for me. Thanks for having me. I really, really appreciate it.
You bet. All right. Hang on. All right.
Okay.